Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of From the Bottom Up. And this time around, we picked a hard one here. And let's see what you guys think of our ranking. And definitely, we'd like to see you leave your personal rankings just to see how they stack up in the comment section here below. And this time around, we are doing the debut from Van Halen. So, bottoms up. All right. So, Van Halen's debut came out on February the 10th, 1978, to many unsuspecting ears. And boy, did it leave an impact to last decades and decades and many more decades to come. This is one band that came at the right time and they left their mark in the music world as a band. But not only that, you got one of the greatest guitar players ever in the history of recorded music with Mr. Eddie Van Halen. What more needs to be said about him? You can just listen to this album, you can see all the wide variety of songs and influences and all the things that he brought to the table here on this particular album. You got everything on this one here. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about this one real quick, go through the tracks. There's 11 tracks in all. The album obviously was released on Warner Brothers and peaked at number 19, and it's gone diamond since. So 10 times platinum. Make no mistake about it. This is probably sold even more than that. They probably just haven't updated it in a while. So we're going to start off. There's 11 tracks, like I had mentioned. We're going to start off with what we feel is the weakest. And it's actually the first single. We're gonna put You Really Got Me down at number 11. Um, yeah, it was the first song to kind of introduce people to Van Halen, but even Eddie was not happy about them releasing that song as a single. He wanted something, not a cover, he wanted something of his own to be released as the first single. But unfortunately, the record company wanted to go with this, and they got their way because they were young. And Eddie didn't have as much power, as he would get down the road here. So you really got me peaked at number 36, and it did help catapult Van Halen's career. First single. Um, it was played by the band live many years before its release on this album, and so that's what we got at number 11. Number 10 got I'm the One. It's one of the early songs played before they were signed. Um, it was initially known as Show Your Love as on early demos, as you can hear in lyrics on the final product here for I'm the One. Lot going on this song. Definitely, and this is one of those albums where no song is bad. You can't skip any tracks on this one. You have to play this one all the way through. But I'm the One is where we got this one at number 10, and that's where we have it. So we're going to skip on down to our number 9, and that is none other than Atomic Punk, which is probably it's one of the two heaviest songs on the debut here, with On Fire being the other one. These songs are like the heaviest this band had recorded at this point in time, so early in their career. Um, Atomic Punk's an interesting tune that features many, many powerful chords from Eddie. A rarity was that it didn't have any background vocals, which is rare. If you listen to the rest of the album, you can clearly hear Michael Anthony and everybody, in the background there. And, um, definitely a highlight. This is one of those songs that people always craved to see live. But it's definitely one of the highlights on the album, no doubt. But unfortunately, with us, we've only got it at number 9. So we're gonna shoot on down to number 8. This is a song you've heard on the radio many times. It was released as the third single, but unfortunately, it failed to chart. Now, this was one of the songs that was written for the album. It wasn't like one of the demos that were written beforehand, but we're talking about Jamie's Crying. A lot of airplay. You can hear this one on many classic rock stations today. Not sure why it didn't do so well on the charts. It was the third single released. You figure by that point, they were already almost at platinum for the album. So I was kind of surprised that this one didn't do something on the charts. But you got to remember, right around that time frame, a lot of punk was going on, and the music scene was in change again, kind of like the way it was in the early '90s when Nirvana came along and changed everything. Van Halen kind of had a play of how to shape of things to come in the '80s here. So that's what we got there. Number seven, we got Eruption, considered to be one of the greatest guitar solos ever recorded. And usually it was always paired with You Really Got Me. Either on the radio, you would usually hear Eruption going into You Really Got Me, or even in concert, the band would do that. So they kind of were, since they are separate pieces of music, we separated them off here. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you watch any of my videos, I'm not a big instrumental guy, but where I got it placed here, this is definitely one of the strongest instrumentals you'll probably ever see in a ranking from me. So to have it, you know, the six songs that are higher than this one, I don't think anybody can argue too much. I'm hoping with my selections here. We'll see. Number six, I've got the second of the heaviest songs on the album. We already talked about Atomic Punk. This one we're talking about On Fire, which is definitely one of the great songs on the album. Very short, to the point, and it's just blazing. It's the last time they ever played it live by the band. The original lineup was at the last live show with the four originals was back in 1984 when that tour, after that tour, obviously Roth left. And then by the time the next album came around, Sammy Hagar was in. But although it wasn't played by the band, Roth did revive it for his famous 1986/87 Eat 'em and Smile tour. It was one of the featured songs, and I think the guys in that band did it great job on it, and it was definitely one of the highlights of the Eat 'em and Smile set. Dave's great vocals like normal on it back in those days. And that's going to take us down to Running with the Devil at number five. Um, it peaked at number 84 on the charts, but obviously it remains a staple on classic rock radio all the way to this very day. Interesting note was how the first notes on this song, which is the lead-off track on the album, features the bass and pretty much drums. For it's kind of odd considering Eddie being the guitar hero and all that they didn't start the album off with a nice fast Eddie Van Halen riff, but instead they chose Running with the Devil, which was a great opener. Great song live as well. Nobody's going to argue with Running with the Devil, that's for sure. That's just a standard classic rock gem for sure. It's going to take me to my number four. And this one was actually written by John Brim, but it's an oldie, a golden oldie that was one of Ross' favorite songs. He sang it years before playing with Van Halen, and it was one of the songs the band did record on their pre-label sessions. And we're talking about none other than the Standard Ice Cream Man. Another great song. Roth always played this one in his solo shows as well. And on the album here, that's actually Dave playing a little bit of acoustic on here, which is pretty cool. Um, so Ice Cream Man, I don't know. I've always it's not one of those songs that got overplayed, and it's not it's not a blazing fast song. It's a slower tune, but I always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed it no matter whenever I heard it, whether it was with the band or with David doing it solo. Just a great song. I can't deny it. And that's going to take me down to number three. So we're getting down to the top three songs on this album, which was no easy feat. And this one, man, this was tough because it's two songs above it. I don't think you can argue with it. So that made this one stuck at number three. But man, on any other possible Van Halen album, this song may be my number one if it wasn't for those two songs above it here. We're talking about Little Dreamer, perhaps the unsung hero of the album, kind of like the band's first real ballad. Roth's velvetly smooth vocals takes the song to a whole different level, and it's all about dreaming big and fighting the odds to make it big. Little Dreamer, just a great song, and I've got it at number three. Number two, I'm not talking about love. I ain't talking about love. Released as the fourth single, but failed to chart. Odd, huh? Very odd. This has been probably the one song that you're always going to hear in a Van Halen live show, because even Sammy Hagar, one of very few songs of Ross that Sammy was willing to sing in concert when he joined the band. And obviously, it's one of the band's best. No one's going to argue that. And just a great song. Ain't talking about love. And that's going to take me down to my number one, which I've always had a thing for this song. This song reminded me of like kind of like every night being a great Saturday night out there. The way this song flows along when you're young, it's definitely one that takes you back in time. And Feel Your Love Tonight. It's got everything. The song's got everything. Amazing. It seems to be the forgotten gem of the whole album. It was written to give everyone the impression that every night was kind of like a Saturday night. And in my estimation, this song should have been a single. I don't know why it wasn't. Sometimes Warner Brothers, these record labels, they don't always release the right songs. And as you could see, I mean, these songs here, none of them really did anything. Can you imagine if they would have had, really, you really got me peaked at number 36. So can you imagine if they would have released some of these other songs as singles, where perhaps if they would have hit the top 40 on the lower side of it, way like in the 20s or even teens, this album could have been even bigger, because that's what it's all about back then. You had a couple good songs, and especially if you had a top 10, you had a top 10 song, you almost guaranteed a platinum album. And if you had a top five song or a number one song, man, that was just about a double platinum or triple platinum album. If you look back on many of these albums today of how the sales have gone over the years with many of these albums. And yeah, Feel Your Love Tonight, just a great song, start to finish, and it's my favorite on this album. So that's what I got there. Going to do a quick rundown for everybody there at home. And I've got number 11, You Really Got Me. Number 10, I'm the One. Number 9, The Atomic Punk. Number 8, Jamie's Crying. Number 7, Eruption. Number 6, On Fire. Number 5, Running with the Devil. Number 4, Ice Cream Man. Number 3, Little Dreamer. Number 2, Ain't Talking About Love. And number 1, Feel Your Love Tonight. And that about puts a wrap on this one, as we've got many more albums we're going to be doing. And if you feel there's an album that you'd like to hear us do, just drop us a line and we will definitely consider it. And stay tuned for many more episodes. And go Bills.